Hey guys, Josh here with the Redneck Homestead channel, and I have a very special guest and friend of mine joining us today, and he's joining us for a number of reasons. His name is Adam. Say hi, Adam.
Hi, Adam.
Oh, okay. Oh, hi, Adam. I'm just kidding.
No,
all right, so
I'm stupid. My sense of humor is weird. It's okay.
Well, you're going to find through the course of this discussion here that Adam is anything but stupid. He's going to actually blow your mind. But I won't set the expectations too high right now for either of us. Let's just have a little bit of fun.
You're setting my expectations so high. I don't know if I can meet them.
We'll see. I think you'll be fine. We have a very, very gracious viewership here. So, a while back we talked about this idea called the Redneck Roundtable. And what I really wanted to do is to introduce friends and associates and acquaintances of mine, people that I meet along the way. And interestingly, Adam is someone I met along the way, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago, right?
More like 15. I think.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah.
So long ago that, no offense intended, but I can't put my finger on when or where it was, but so I guess Adam came into my computer store 15 years ago maybe, and we met, and then just like the prior video that you guys have seen, how I got hooked on ham radio, he and I re-met on a local 2-meter repeater. And Adam is an amateur radio operator like myself, but unlike myself, Adam has been involved with amateur radio for many years. How long?
Only about 8 years. There are some guys that have been doing it for 60. So.
But you're not 60.
That's true. Not yet.
Not yet. But no. In any case, I wanted to introduce Adam because he is just. He's a very, very interesting guy, and he has a lot of really wonderful knowledge to share. In fact, he's been extremely helpful to me. Whenever you enter into kind of a new domain or a new realm, that you just are so excited, and you could probably see the excitement that I have for amateur radio in the last video. And I am just like all hands on deck, all brain power on deck, and I have so many questions, and I can only read so many books and so many pages. And so many times I'll have a question that to me is a massive question, and Adam has a wonderful way of boiling it down, making it understandable for me, and really kind of help. He's almost in many ways a guy, the guardrails, so that I don't go off the road. And so I'm going to start and ask Adam some extremely basic questions, because I can't assume that anyone really knows the answers to these questions, much like I didn't know many of the answers to these questions. Many years ago, I had a friend who tried to prod me along into getting into amateur radio, and I just didn't do it. And I mentioned that in the last video. But now that I'm here, this is my friend that is going to help to make a lot of this clear to you guys. So,
as much as I can.
Well, let's start with the basic question. The fundamental question is, what is amateur radio?
Well, amateur radio is, the FCC would refer to it as a radio service, but amateur radio is a hobby where people can experiment with radios. They can use radios to communicate around the world. They can use radios to communicate down the street. They can have access to more radio spectrum than you can with any other radio service, such as Citizens Band or I can't remember what they're called, but there are a couple of different radio services up in the UHF part of the spectrum. And with a ham radio license, you can do so much more. It's the only radio service that allows you to operate radios that are not FCC certified. So you can actually build your own radios. You can build any equipment you want for ham radio. In fact, I've got 2 antennas that I've built that I use on a daily basis. I don't have any radios that I've built. Well, kinda do actually. I have that receiver that I put together from various parts. It's an SDR. Okay, SDR, software-defined radio. And what a software-defined radio is a device that instead of using physical filters like capacitors and chokes and things like that, it uses computer chips to do that work for the radio, and so they have some advantages, some functional advantages. But without digging into that, that's a subject that could go on forever.
Sure, and there's so many different rabbit trails that originally when I did my last video, I was really hesitant to kind of explore the different rabbit holes that we could go down. And I think to a large extent that's what I want to do with you, is I want to take a few minutes and maybe cover different aspects of amateur radio. Before we do that, it seems to me, I mean, I've been through the licensing process, as have you, and it would seem to me that amateur radio is, the word amateur is certainly not descriptive of what's going on. It's not easy stuff. I mean, it can be easy, but it seems like there's a lot of math, a lot of science, a lot of electronics, some engineering, some redneck rigging maybe involved. But
it's a lot of that.
It seems like there's a lot more than just amateur. And how can you help to synthesize that?
Well, the word amateur refers to the fact that we can't make money doing this. So amateur simply means that anything you do in ham radio, you can't earn money doing it on the air, technically. I mean, you can sell your radios, you can sell equipment that you make. I mean, that's fine. It's just you can't utilize the amateur radio spectrum for making money. So you can't conduct business on the air. And that's where the word amateur comes from.
Okay.
Because certainly there are a lot of people who have licenses in other parts of the spectrum, and they're very professional people that are also amateur radio operators. And so it is not in any way an insult, it's simply a way to categorize us as people who can do a lot of things with radio except do it for business.
Okay, well that's very, very helpful. Now, before I really sunk my teeth into this, I had many questions. And as a kid, I had the yard sale CB Cobra base station and the desktop mic that you had put a 9-volt battery in, and you had to come up with a handle, and you chose.
Hey Tyler, hand me the lollipop, will you?
Uh-oh. A lollipop. Ah, lollipop. Okay.
One of these.
That reminds me a lot of when I was a kid, and that's funny, Adam.
This one is actually modified to work with my Yaesu 857.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
No 9-volt battery needed anymore.
Oh, terrific. So
but I did have the Cobra base station.
Yeah.
I had a 29 LTD in my truck, and
okay.
you know that was
Well,
me at age 17.
Can you help to differentiate the Citizens Band world from the ham or amateur radio world?
Okay, well, CB, Citizens Band, is limited to, well, at least legally, limited to 40 channels around 27 megahertz. It's AM only, again, legally. There are a lot of people, unfortunately, that abuse the Citizens Band radio service. They're legally limited to 4 miles or 5 watts. They're limited to the AM mode, and they're limited to those 40 channels around 27 megahertz.
Okay. And it's unlicensed.
It's
correct?
unlicensed, yes. I was trying to go there. I was forgetting what I was trying to say.
Oh, that's okay.
But yes, you don't need a license to get on CB. You don't have to pay for it other than buying the equipment. But it's there are a lot of people that abuse it. It's a different culture than amateur radio. Generally, there are some nice folks that are on CB, but there are some that aren't so nice.
Sure.
And I kind of outgrew it. The culture that we had around here when I was 17 was pretty rough, and so I left that behind. One of the things that also differentiates ham radio, aside from the functional differences, because we have many bands, many frequency ranges that we can use. We're not limited to channels, but also the culture is different. Generally, amateur radio operators tend to be the kind of people that are helpful, that want to improve the world around them, and so it's a different culture. And that's not to say that all CBers are like that, but the general culture of the CB radio vastly different from the general culture of amateur radio.
Sure, that's been my experience as well, and not speaking anything negative against Citizens Band, but it just seems like there's a lot of tough talk in some ways,
Yes.
and some foul language, and it's not a kid-friendly place in my
Right.
experience.
Yeah, and there's very little of that going on in ham radio. I won't say it doesn't happen,
Sure,
but it's few and far between.
sure. Now, some other basic questions for you that to help really to flesh this out and to boil down.
For a moment.
Yeah, no problem. Kind of boil down what the practical uses are for amateur radio. I mean, to the person who's maybe just approaching amateur radio, can you speak to what some of its applications would be? I mean, can you talk to somebody 5 miles away, 2 miles away? I mean, you hear of people, tales of people communicating with far continents and maybe talking to space station, the space station.
Absolutely.
To ships in the middle of the ocean.
Absolutely. I actually have an MP3 file recorded of the ISS
Really?
making a pass and one of the astronauts talking.
Okay.
I wasn't able to get in myself. I didn't have the right kind of antenna. But all of the above.
Okay.